On January 31st, 1999, Seth MacFarlane and Fox released the very first episode of one of the most popular animated sitcoms of all time, Family Guy. Everyone knows about the show, and everyone seems to hate it for some reason. Like every other TV show that runs for 20 plus seasons, most people seem to think Family Guy peaked a long time ago. Most viewers think seasons 3 through 6 is the golden era of the franchise, which is why today I'll be watching an episode that aired way after that. An episode some people have called straight up the reason this show sucks now. This is a real quote. People really hate this episode. With season 23 of Family Guy currently ongoing, I know a lot of people still really like this show. I'll be honest, I've had my fair share of binge sessions when it comes to chilling in the crib watching Family Man, but it's also no secret that viewership isn't quite what it used to be, and while most of that is due to the decline of traditional TV ratings as a whole, you can Google the title of this thing with the word Reddit tagged along and find more than enough hate threads to satisfy all your depressing, lonely, hateful needs. Half my viewers are masochists. I've come to terms with that. So today, in an attempt to find out what all the ruckus is about, I'll be watching and explaining everything that happens in this quote-unquote worst episode to see if it's actually as bad as people say it is, or if the internet is overreacting like they do every time there's a new movie sequel that's announced. I'm setting the bar pretty low here, okay, so we shouldn't be that surprised, right? Anyway, this episode apparently really sucks, so I'm here to talk about it. So grab your copy of Super Monkey Ball for the Nintendo GameCube, and let's find out if this truly is the episode that ruined Family Guy. This episode, that destroyed a billion-dollar franchise apparently, is called Life of Brian. This title is a direct reference to the 1981 Monty Python film of the same name, clever wordplay, or random movie reference. Let's find out. Our episode begins with Stewie and Brian running away from a tribe of indigenous Americans. We find out that Stewie used his time machine to bring Brian and himself back to the 17th century. After meeting some indigenous people, I guess Stewie gave them a bunch of guns as a gift, which is both the worst idea and the most American idea I think I've ever heard. We're told that the indigenous people killed off all the white folk, and now they're running the entirety of North America. We're not even a minute in, and I already feel like I downed a whole bottle of liquid mercury. I'm so confused. What is going on? In case you somehow don't know, Stewie is this evil genius baby child person. You probably recognize him from every t-shirt worn by a 14-year-old back in 2010. Not only is Stewie highly intelligent, extremely sarcastic, and ambiguously sexual, but he's also got a really close relationship with Brian. This is extremely important. Do not forget this. Stewie and Brian examine the town for a bit to see how different it is from the world today. This sounds cool, but it's really just an excuse for the writers to jam in as many stereotypes as possible. Everyone constantly shops at jean jacket stores. The doctors don't use physical medicines. And of course, their Billboard Top 100 is exactly what you'd expect it to be.
Hiya, hiya, hiya.
Hiya, 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 hiya.
Nah, because if you add drums to that, it could actually be a banger. Sounds like something Kendrick Lamar would sample. Anyway, Stewie wants to go back in time and stop himself from giving the indigenous people guns. However, the return pad of his time machine is actually broken, so the two have no option but to find the version of themselves in this timeline and use that version's time machine instead. And before you get excited because you think the time travel episodes are usually a lot of fun, don't get your hopes up. Everything so far doesn't really matter at all. But wait, you know what does matter? Shout out to our sponsor, Raycon. Need an incredible gift just in time for Mother's Day? Raycon's got you covered. As we all know, moms are always busy, always on the go, somehow everywhere at once. How do they do that? So this year, instead of getting her another scented candle or something she'll probably pretend to like, get her something she'll actually use, Raycon Everyday Earbuds. Perfect for work, the gym, taking calls, ignoring calls, whatever she's into. And when she finally gets a minute to relax, she can pop these in and enjoy her favorite music or podcasts without distractions. And yeah, they sound amazing, but they also look really good. I got the forest green with the yellow sunset case. Just pop that in and it's super sleek. And if yellow's not her thing, they've got a bunch of other colors she'll probably love. Not to mention the case itself has wireless charging, so no more annoying cables everywhere. Raycon's Everyday Earbuds have a total 32-hour battery life, and thanks to Raycon's quick charge function, you can get an hour and a half of playback with just 10 minutes of charging. It's got active noise cancellation, which blocks out background noise so you can actually focus. That's a big bonus for the price point, not gonna lie. They fit all snug in your ear. They're perfect if you're outside or a runner or working out. That's not a real word. They're dust-proof, water-resistant, and use no buttons, just an intuitive LED UI. I love using my Raycons for when I need to edit something on the go, since they're snug and look stylish as heck. Also, I'm totally gonna get a pair for my mom, and I know she'll love them because her regular earbuds always fall out, but luckily these don't do that. And if mom's not in love with them, Raycon offers a 30-day happiness guarantee, risk-free. So don't wait. Go to buyraycon.com/Darzii or click the link in the description to get up to 20% off site-wide during this special deal. Give your mother the gift of premium audio without breaking the bank on this Mother's Day. Let's be honest, she deserves it. Back to the video. Stewie and Brian visit their house, but in this timeline, it's just a giant teepee because, of course it is. They find these alternate versions of themselves that are clearly dressed to resemble Native Americans. I guess giving a couple dudes guns completely reshaped societal norms as we know it. Also, didn't Brian literally just say that the dudes with guns killed all the white people? I guess the Griffin family is exempt from that statement. Kind of seems like a huge oversight, to be honest. Maybe I'm missing something. I don't know. This version of Brian is also a bison because indigenous people own bisons, I guess. Is bisons the right plural word? I don't know what I'm talking about. So. Anyway, speeding through this now, our OG Stewie and Brian find this version's time machine and use it to go back in time. We see Brian from the past rizzing up an indigenous baddie. The OGs then take the guns back and make a joke about how white people take things all the time.
Anyway, you know how we like to take things back from you people?
They use the new return pad to go back to present time, but what's important to mention is that while doing it, the two almost die from a couple arrows and tomahawks to the head. To make sure everything is back to normal, Stewie Googles Native American role models, which yields 0 results, thus confirming everything is back to normal. I'm not gonna lie, I usually find this type of comedy kind of funny. I feel like I might be Family Guy's prime audience, to be honest, but so far this episode feels super forced. But honestly, that doesn't really matter because nothing so far is the reason people hate this episode. We'll get to that. We cut to later that night when we see Stewie completely destroying his own time machine. He explains that their time-traveling adventures have almost gotten Brian and himself killed multiple times, so he's playing it safe and just getting rid of it altogether. Bro sounds like a scaredy cat right now. Stewie sounds like the type to get jump scared in Minecraft. Real quick, I should mention Family Guy's overabundant use of cutaway gags. And yes, my background light did just die, so that's unfortunate. The cutaway gags are an iconic staple of the show, and for the most part, I'm actually a big fan of how they're delivered. Some of the funniest moments ever in this show are with cutaway gags. It's just really hard for me to explain them in this video because of the format that I use, because I need to explain the setup, and then I need to explain the punchline, and then I need to explain how it relates to the actual story being told. So I've just now decided that I'll be giving an out-of-context description of these cutaway gags as they happen. You're not meant to understand it. I'm just mentioning them here because they're in the episode. Speaking of, there's a cutaway of Stewie buying a gift and refusing to donate to charity. Classic Stewie. We cut to Stewie and Brian putting the time machine in one of those trash compactor things at the dump. I think my brain is officially cooked because I saw this thing and immediately thought of that one Mr. Beast video where he crushes the Lamborghini.
This is like the end of an era. Well, sack up, you twink. It's just a machine.
I feel like Stewie was talking directly to the audience there. My favorite piece of tech ever was the eye dog. Did anyone else have one of those? That was the best. Before leaving the dump, Brian finds a hockey net and decides to bring it home with him. You might think I'm kidding, but this one decision is the single most important moment in this story. Later that night, Stewie and Brian are setting up the hockey net and about to play on the street.
Oh, wait, I gotta go grab my knee pads. I was using them for this other thing.
It's a beautiful day out. These two are basically best friends. What an awesome cartoon moment. I don't think anything could ruin this moment for me right now. Not a single thing. But then, as if my not so subtle foreshadowing wasn't obvious enough, a car comes swerving onto the road, and I'm not kidding here, hits Brian going 50 miles per hour, and the car rattles against his body as if he has ragdoll physics or something. The whole family comes out and shares a moment of actual panic because they all think Brian got one pumped at 100 HP. A squirrel shows up and kicks Brian in the head, Street Fighter style. Later that day, and the whole family is at the vet, seeing if there's anything they can do about Brian's condition. After a bit of time on the operating table, the doctor finally steps into the waiting room to let the family know that, well, yeah, Brian is about to die. The family enters the operating room. Brian lets everyone know that he loves them. You can tell he's officially dead because that one machine is making one long beep instead of multiple little beeps.
Mission failed. We'll get them next time.
So far, things are pretty dark all of a sudden. I'm sure most people watching this probably just wanted to laugh a little bit. And you have to understand, in a show like Family Guy, you'd expect any and all serious moments like this to end with a comedic cut or out-of-pocket joke. But this episode's different because instead of inserting a gag, the shot lingers on each family member crying. It's a shot that clearly had some thought put into it. If you're a big fan of the show, I wouldn't blame you for being a little sad yourself. But don't worry, this is just a goofy little sitcom. Brian will surely come back to life this episode. Right? Later that day, and the family arrives back home, Peter mentions how he's gonna do, quote, a sad yank, which sounds like a Mario Party minigame to me or something. While Stewie blames the real enemy here, the sport of hockey, he quickly realizes that all he needs to do is build another time machine so he can go back in time and stop Brian from ever being hit by the car. That, or he can just stop hockey from being invented. If I was Stewie, that's what I would do. Where are my hockey haters at? Let's go.
Oh, happy birthday, Neil.
It's the random one-liners that get you every time. He really nailed that delivery. Get it? The next minute of this episode is Stewie talking to some guy about buying a part for his time machine. This guy is pretty useless though because he says that it's pretty impossible to get that part nowadays. It's like finally having a released copy of Silk Song. Good luck finding that. We cut to a later time when everyone is attending Brian's funeral. You'd expect something to happen here, like something that furthers the plot in any way at all, but really it's just shots of everyone crying for a bit. There is a joke with Quagmire because he notoriously hated Brian, and there's also a joke with Adam West that feels super out of place to me. I don't know why.
None of you people came to my funeral.
But for the most part, this scene feels like it's actually trying to say goodbye and pay tribute to one of its most iconic characters. I'm pretty sure every viewer assumes that they're just gonna bring Brian back to life. They won't kill off a character that important, right? Another minute of people crying later, and this feels more like a Netflix reality show than a Family Guy episode. I never mentioned this, but this is episode 6 of season 12, meaning it's just a random episode in the middle of a random season. It's not a big finale, it's not setting the tone for a brand new era. Again, so far I don't think this is the worst thing ever, but it does feel kind of out of place. Anyway, we cut to a whole month later when everyone is pretty bummed out about Brian. Eventually the family decides that getting another dog is probably the play. Everyone seems to think that getting a new dog is a good idea, except for Stewie, who is obviously very close to Brian. This is when we get a cutaway of a PBS special that makes fun of how abnormal albino people are. That's all the information you're getting. The Griffin family visits the local pet shop and looks around for a bit. There's this random line where Stewie calls Chris a creep, and it's way more important than you think. Try to remember it.
Hey, Chris, you're kind of a creep. You should get a ferret.
The family has no idea how to choose between all of the dogs in front of them, but of course there's only one dog that can talk to humans like Brian could. So, you know, I wonder which one they're gonna buy. This dog's name is Vinny. His whole thing is that he's overly Italian, he's got a really thick accent and acts like an Italian mobster. In fact, he's actually voiced by Tony Sirico, who played Polly Walnuts on The Sopranos, but that was back when HBO made actual good shows and not reality shows about one dude who went to Japan and his brother who faked a boxing match. Peter decides to adopt him right away without talking to the rest of the family. Who cares, I guess. When the family arrives home, Vinny immediately impresses everyone. He offers to feed everyone since they've all worked so hard recently. Everyone, that is, but Stewie, who clearly feels a little betrayed after straight up replacing Brian like that.
Oh, Stewie, did you make something? Nom, 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 nom.
That's for real how it is with babies too. You gotta pretend you like their garbage or else they cry the whole day. So everyone in the family is a fan of Vinny except for Stewie. There's also a cutaway of two dudes who are about to crucify a jar of pickles. I'm hoping this one is extra confusing for anyone watching this. So real quick, I just want to recap everything that's happened so far because we're almost at the end of this episode. Like, it's almost done. So far, Stewie and Brian used the time machine. Stewie then broke his time machine. Brian then got hit by a car and died. And then the family got a new dog. That's literally everything that's happened. Take out all the fluff and we have ourselves around 5 minutes of actual content. Who on earth pads their content with unnecessary filler and random facts? Did you guys know Seth MacFarlane could play the saxophone? Peter brings Vinny to the bar to meet the gang. The guys all get along well with him. There's honestly not much that happens here. There is a cutaway of Joe driving around his cop car with Grimace from McDonald's. Once back home, Vinny's having a beer with Peter on the couch. The writers do this thing where they couldn't think of any good one-liners, so they just have Peter laugh really loud at something that's clearly not that funny.
Want another beer?
No. I'd love one.
Stewie argues with Vinny for a bit. It's clear that while everyone else is chill with this guy, Stewie low-key wants to 1v1 him IRL. There's another cutaway, this time of Stewie letting an audience know that the magician on stage drives a Saturn. Good luck finding the context for this one. Stewie tries to make Vinny have a heart attack by telling him Sal Annuncio's kid tragically passed away. After a bit of research, I found out that Sal Annuncio is a completely made-up character, and the joke here is that it just sounds like a normal Italian guy. I think this joke could have been funny if Stewie named an actual famous Italian person, but whatever, doesn't matter. Vinny is actually about to crash out because of this news, but Chris shows up and tells Vinny some Italian-related news of his own, except this time it's good news, so Vinny is completely fine again. This dude is basically that robot from Detroit Become Human. Dude just has like 2 modes, apparently. The reason Chris did this, by the way, is because Stewie called him a creep like 5 minutes ago. I singled that moment out earlier so you guys would remember, but it was such a random throwaway line. I'm surprised it mattered at all.
What are you doing?
Call me a creep, you piece of crap!
Why was that so loud? This feels like the longest episode ever and a fever dream at the same time. Eventually, Vinny is just chilling, as Italians do, when he finds Stewie crying outside. Vinny isn't actually a bad guy or anything, so he tries to empathize with Stewie. This is when Stewie lays all of his cards out on the table. He explains that he misses Brian and that he feels as though the rest of the family has already completely forgotten about him. He doesn't think Vinny will ever replace him, so Stewie gets all grumpy and cries some more. That is, until Vinny explains that his previous owner had passed away unexpectedly. You'll never guess how this guy died, by the way. It's actually insane. The two have this moment where they bond over losing their closest friends. They hug it out, and that's kind of the end of the episode. The two go to bed, and Vinny decides to sleep in Stewie's room because I guess they're besties forever now. Okay. And that's kind of it. Was this episode really that bad? Well, the reason people seem to hate it so much is because of the effect it had on the following episodes. Like I said earlier, you almost expect Brian to come back by the end of this thing, but the episode ends with Brian still dead and replaced by some random Italian dog. I'm all for adding new characters, but getting rid of some of your most popular ones is definitely a choice. If you were around the internet in 2013, you probably remember people freaking out about this. I specifically remember seeing people get tattoos of Brian to honor his character or whatever. The story goes that apparently the backlash to killing Brian off was so bad that just 2 episodes later, the show decided to bring him back through a complicated time traveling episode. But other people will swear that the show's plan was always to bring Brian back, no matter how the viewers reacted to his death. Either way, it seems well documented that Vinny was initially added to shake things up a bit and to see if it would spark new interest into the show. With lowering view numbers year after year, I guess the writers just wanted to make some big headlines. They low-key clickbaited us, not gonna lie. And it actually kind of worked. I remember a lot of people talking about this episode when it aired. I wasn't really still watching the show by this point, and I still remember hearing about it a lot back then. Again, it wasn't a horrible episode, and the idea of replacing Brian for a bit isn't the worst thing ever, but I think the fact that this episode played it off like Vinny was a permanent replacement really screwed with people. It felt forced and done just to get some new eyes on the product. A lot of people were attached to Brian, so to have him disappear in the middle of a random season came as a shock to many. Like I said, they eventually did bring him back, but by that point, most people just figured that the writers were just trying to save their own reputation. Regardless of their true intent, a lot of people never got over this sense of desperation Family Guy once had, which is why to many people, this is the episode that ruined Family Guy. Do you agree? What do you think is the worst Family Guy episode? Let me know and maybe I'll cover it in the future. Who knows? Maybe not. But anyway, that's the end of the video. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like and comment. It helps the channel out a bunch. Leave the word spaghetti in your comment somewhere and I can heart it or something. I don't know. Become a member for only $1. It gets your name at the end of all my future videos and is the best direct way to support me. Your name's right here. Look at that. All cool and stuff. Shout out to all my current members. You guys are the best. Paula Abdul scores this one a solid Italian dog out of 5. And yeah, thanks for watching.